Warning. The following podcast contains explicit language, honest opinions and a sense of humor. Welcome to the Brothers Take.
Hello everyone and welcome back to our podcast. I am Chris, joined by my brothers Adam and Eric.
Hello.
And we are back in the room to talk more about video games. And in this episode, we're taking a small break from Ghost of Tsushima, as we're still playing it and working our way through its story. So we'll be coming back to that for our final thoughts and final review on that. But there was a topic that came up in our 50 questions for every gamer episode. And we had said when we were doing that some of the questions we'd answered before, some of them would never make a full episode, and some of them would if we were interested in the topic enough. And so there was a topic there that we wanted to go back to and go into further detail on. And there's a few more that we probably will do in future episodes too. But the topic today is sort of centered around guilty pleasure games, which of course games that you like that usually people would feel guilty about saying in public, or they know that other people tend not to like them. It's sort of an unpopular opinion, I suppose. We don't necessarily feel guilty about liking these games, but these are games that are generally not liked by people that we really like, and we're going to justify why we like them and why we think they're actually at least pretty good or really good games. And then if you find that you're someone who also likes them, great, join the discussion. Let us know why you like them. If you find you're one of the people who hates them and you're like, no, like justifiably this game is hated and I'll tell you exactly why, great, let us know. And then if you have another game that you know people generally don't like, this is a safe place to talk about it. Let us know the game that you like. If we hate it, we'll tell you. No, I'm only joking. No, it's cool. Like if there's a game you really like, you have your reasons for liking it, do talk about it. And so this is all about guilty pleasure games, or games that are generally disliked. As you're listening, you could jump into the comments to let us know your own thoughts. If you're watching us on YouTube, that is. But if you're listening to us on the go on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to us, you can also get in touch on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at The Brothers Take. We're not going to dilly-dally too much. Let's burst into our guilty pleasure games. Okay, so before we jump into the main topic, Eric actually had a question that he'd been joking. We like toss back and forth. What's the next topic going to be, or what's everyone in the mood to talk about next, or that kind of thing? If there's something that's not like alarmingly, no, we need to talk about this right now. And Eric was jokingly saying, why don't we do an episode on why it takes us so long to finish a fucking game? Which is like why we still haven't got our Ghost of Tsushima like final review up or whatever. Or it's like we always get around to like The Last of Us Part 2 4 weeks after everyone else did it. So just before we actually get into this topic, let's briefly answer that question. Why does it take us so long to actually finish a game and then get around to talking about it? Eric, you can go first, but you actually don't take as long as me or Adam.
No, I really don't. So the question's only two used to. If it does take me a while, I don't know why it would take me a while, but if it does, just unforeseen circumstances.
Yeah, you play pretty quickly. Or if you're not enjoying the game, maybe, is it? You might take it slower.
No, maybe. Depends on the game. Like, I might just not finish it if I'm not really enjoying it. I might get to the point where, like, fuck this is not... Like, The Sinking City. I was playing that. I got that. I was playing it. And at first, I was really liking it. And then just... I don't know how far I got into it, but the game was dragging on for so long. I just went, no, I'm not arsed with this anymore. And I just stopped playing it, like, altogether. But, like, Last of Us Part 2 didn't take me that long, and I was kind of underwhelmed by that. Ghost of Tsushima took me a bit longer, but that's actually because the game was a decent length, to be honest.
That game's long.
And then obviously had like work and stuff like that, so then I wasn't able to actually get it done within my 3 hours that it usually would take me. But
it takes me 3 hours to finish a 25-hour game. Obviously.
What's taking everyone?
Yeah. Adam, what takes you so long to get around to finishing games?
Well, firstly, it's not my job.
Yes, that's a good
I
one.
don't have to rely on a paycheck to come in through the door to finish it day one. I also don't get review copies, so I don't have it like a week or two before it's released. I get it the same day as everyone else, and I play it at the same time as everyone else. I think it's quite valuable. Like when games come out, and the reviews come out, oftentimes the game that people are reviewing hasn't got that day one patch that's needed. Therefore, they experience bugs or problems. They don't actually get to cover everything. They don't give enough time to reflect on the story, if there's much to reflect on.
Yeah.
I think oftentimes those rushed reviews aren't at all that helpful. I like to think that we give the games enough time that they're not gone, you know?
Oh yeah.
It's like you know, once a game comes out, you don't need to know how good it is. Chances are you're playing it too. I like to think that we are not necessarily giving it a review on like whether you should buy it or not, but rather creating a discussion around the game around the same time that the listeners may have cleared it too.
Yeah.
You know, like we were talking about games like Metal Gear Solid 2. How fucking old is that? Like, you know?
Yeah.
I don't think there's much value in having to just get your bloody review in the minute it's out. So yeah, I haven't cleared Ghost of Tsushima. I've just got the ghost stance is where I'm at. Because I am doing literally everything. I am not rushed to clear the story.
Yeah.
Deep shit, man. Deep
that's
shit.
deep. You went deep, man. You went fucking deep, man.
Yeah.
Similarly, well, this is for all of us. This is not our job. This is a hobby. Geez, it'd be great if it was, but it's not. So we don't get paid to do this. We're not making any money to do it. We don't get review copies. We don't get games early. We get them the same time as everyone else. The only time I've ever gotten a game early, and it was by total fluke, was Final Fantasy VII Remake. And that's only because Square Enix shipped them early because they were worried about people not getting it at the on the release date, and they wanted people to have it around the same time. And me and Adam just so happened to get it early, and I was super delighted as a fan and as someone who was excited for that game. But I actually remember taking a picture of it, and someone did message me going, "Oh my god, man, did you get like a review copy because of your podcast?" I was like, "You haven't checked out our podcast, have you?" It's like, I was like, "No, we are not sponsored. No, absolutely not. I'm not getting review copies. I just got lucky." So we get games the same time as everyone else. We take our time generally playing them. I also have a job. I have other shit to do. I can't just play it 24 hours. And that's the reason it takes me, anyway, a long time to get around. Like, there's other things that have to be done too, as well as playing games. And I live with my girlfriend. She's not a gamer herself. And we both share the TV. And it's not like every waking hour I get to use it. Like, she sometimes, comes in from work. She wants to do something as well. I can't hog it the whole time. I do get it more than she does. So she's pretty fair. Like, there's plenty of nights where she will sit down and just watch me play a game that she has no interest in, and I'm I'm not as kind back. I tend not to watch what she's watching. So like, credit to her where credit's due. Like, that's really sound of her. But yeah, so that's why it takes me so long to actually finish a game and go and talk to her about it. In terms of Ghost of Tsushima, I have finished the main story because I had a couple of days off there and I was able to burst through it then. But yes, I actually didn't rush it. I did as much side stuff as I possibly could. There are some more side stuff I still have to do, but it's sort of like end game stuff. Do you know that kind of thing? In any kind of open world game, that's kind of what I got left. Most of the big side quests and the mythic quests and all the things that Ghost of Tsushima has to offer, I did all of that before I embarked on the final mission because I wanted to feel like I had kind of finished it. But I still have to do all the collectibles and certain other things. So yeah, that's why it takes us so long to finish games. Mainly, it's not our job. I don't know as well. If it was a job, you'd probably given a certain date you have to finish a game by, and you wouldn't really be enjoying it, would you? I don't know. Maybe,
probably not.
Like,
yeah, and then you have to be capturing footage as you go. Like I think,
and you're taking notes as well and everything. Like, it really takes you out of the immersion of the game.
Yeah, game reviewers, I think, Well, much like any job, really. You know, like everyone always looks at someone else doing a job saying, "Oh yeah, you have it easy." I don't think game reviewing is
No,
as glamorous
no, I
as
don't think so.
people
I
would
don't think
think it
it's.
would
I
be.
don't think it's quite the. So I get to sit back with my big soda, my popcorn, play my game, and get paid. It's like, no, I don't think it's that at all. You're probably given a week.
Yeah, there's
Play
bits.
the shit out of it.
I suppose there's bits of it, but I imagine like when you're critically reviewing a game, if you're not in the mood for the game, like a lot of that is like, you know, when we play games, it's like we kind of have to be in the mood for it, and the game needs to arrive at the right time.
Yeah,
Otherwise, we might be, I don't know, a little bit harsh towards a game, and then when we go back to play it at another time when we're more in the mood for it, we might actually enjoy the game. So if you're not in the mood for it and then you have to review it at the same time, or you're just having a bad day at your job and you have to review this game, like I imagine that could be quite difficult to remove all the what's happening in your own life as well
yeah.
to look at it objectively.
And speaking about being harsh about a game,
Else?
today's topic.
So see what
there-
you did there?
See what I did there? Yeah, all I
Oh.
have to do is wait for the right segue. It's called improvising. That's improv class. But
You have it easy.
yeah, I have it easy, man. I'm just making shit up as I go. uh, so today's topic is all about games that are generally not liked, but that we do like. So these could be ones that it came up in our 50 questions for every gamer episode. But people might not have seen that, so we can readdress those games. Or if there's another game you'd like to talk about too, we can do that too. So Adam, I'll come to you first. A game that you actually really liked that generally is disliked.
Now these games. I have a few that I quite enjoyed that I think weren't received well. It's not that they got really bad ratings. Like they kind of got maybe mixed reviews to maybe a low good rating, I guess.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So somewhere between a 6 to an 8.
Yeah. Okay.
So they're not horrendous games that I'm like, oh yeah, they're class.
No. Yeah. Yeah.
The first one that came to mind was Dante's Inferno.
Man, I really liked Dante's Inferno.
Yeah,
I forgot all about that.
I thought that was pretty
Yeah.
fun. Which is essentially God of War, only
In hell.
you're Dante Alighieri going through the 9 circles of hell. I mean, immediately that sounds awesome, doesn't it?
It's an incredible concept. I actually have like this. I won't get it out on the bookshelf there behind me. I have this incredible copy of the Divine Comedy. Like it has golden pages. It's this incredible book. Because I am fascinated by the 9 circles of hell concept. The Inferno part is, I think, the most interesting part of the Divine Comedy. But the Divine Comedy as a trilogy is so interesting in that it's like the afterlife is all one big joke. Kind of like the Divine Comedy. It's weird. It's like when you think about it, because if you read it, it's very tragic and it's a tragic story, and yet it's framed as a comedy. It's so interesting.
Does comedy have the same meaning now that it did back
no,
then?
comedy is a tragedy. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, even today, all comedy is like you laugh at people's problems.
No, but I mean, no, it's not
Unfortunately.
like I don't know if back then, because I think he wrote it during the Renaissance. I don't know if back then comedy means to laugh at.
Oh, maybe.
Back then.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that actually. Yeah, maybe.
No, comedy meant tragedy, essentially.
Yeah.
Okay.
So actually, he's talking about
The Divine Tragedy.
Actually, it's supposed to be the Divine Tragedy.
Yeah, but
Divine Comedy.
as far as I know, it's tragedy with a sense of irony, I think.
Right. Yeah. Which is what?
Right,
No. Well,
okay.
sorry.
Well,
That's what comedy is.
Yeah.
Even today.
Yeah.
You know, like I remember someone saying, I work at a comedy fest most years. It didn't happen this year because of the lockdown. But one of the comedians were talking to it. He was like, there's no such thing as comedy without a victim. There is a victim in all comedy, and which is why some comedy is offensive to people. But and then if you can't pick out, if you're like, well, no, I heard their joke, and they weren't talking about those people are like, I can't pick out the victim. Then the victim is probably the comedian themselves, which is popular too. The comedian will come up and talk about their own problems, and while they're doing it in a funny way and everyone's laughing at it, there's definitely some realism there, where they actually have low self-esteem and kind of dislike themselves, and they're reflecting that. And it's funny, but there's pain there. There's pain in all humor. But anyway, back to Dante's Inferno, which is
Inferno.
Do you remember when they did the behind the scenes and they were like, it just makes sense as a game? You've got 9 levels of bosses at the end of each.
Yeah.
And then they don't give you 9 bosses at the end of each level.
I don't know.
They
Oh,
do,
I
don't
don't
they?
think so.
Yeah. Pretty sure they do.
Do they?
I never finished
I think
it.
Cerberus is
Right.
the boss of gluttony.
But
isn't it? Or
Cerberus
is
is
it
the gluttony. Cleopatra is lust. King Minos is limbo.
Yeah.
There's no one for anger.
there was the
There was just a bit for anger. There was just a bit. You're on this giant walking demon thing, and you're just destroying a city, a hellish
all right,
city.
yeah. Well,
at the
there's
end of
definitely
anger.
some sort of conflicts at the end of each. But
Oh, yeah.
I thought the gameplay was fine. It wasn't like anything new. It was just God of War or even Heavenly Sword or whatever. Which is just, I think that was a huge criticism to it, was that it wasn't anything new. And it's like, how many fucking first-person shooters do you play a year? Like, none of them are that new.
Yeah.
You can find enjoyment out of it. But what I just liked out of it was that it's just such a cool concept. So going through the 9 circles of hell, different villains, different monsters on each, and the designs were like that Cerberus design is so disgusting. Like it's.
I know
was-
their design for gluttony was fucking grotesquely amazing. Like,
Yeah.
because
And it was over top. There was so much of the game was over top, but you had Graham McTavish voicing Dante, who is such an over the top dude anyway. So he just brought such incredible life to that character.
But even isn't the cross that he has on his chest is actually like a flesh wound that he is like stitched across or something like that?
There's scriptures that are stitched over his wound in the shape of a cross, as far as I know.
It's all kind of like mythological badassery, or it's like, well, like no human could really do that probably, but
No. But I think the reason I gravitated towards it was because I was reading a comic around the time that came out called Priest, and which was made into a film.
Also underappreciated, the comic book, not the film.
Well, that's only because it never finished.
Yeah,
Tokyo
that's
Pop
what I mean. Why wasn't it finished? It was so good.
Tokyo Pop went out of business, so there was no publisher.
Yeah.
But that the Priest comic was all about this, like the Knights Templar and coming across like fallen angels and kind of dealing with demons in hell, etc. And who had like the cross like kind of scratched across his forehead. So in terms of imagery and style and stuff, it was quite similar. So I was really digging that kind of stuff at the time, and Dante's Inferno was like so close to that in terms of the stylistic side of it, and the mythology. So that was, and I think it was Visceral Games as well. I think it was probably one of their last ones, which were the makers of Dead Space.
Oh yeah.
Which is so sad to see them gone. And they were going to do the trilogy. Like eventually you were going to.
Which is weird.
Yeah.
Because you wonder where's that gonna go? Like even okay, so
well, like Brian said in
at the end you always fight God,
you have
right?
to fight God.
That's only JRPGs, man.
Well, it did have that Satan managed to use you to escape from hell into purgatory. So I'd imagine Satan was going to be the antagonist of all 3 games.
Yeah. So
you have to fight. You have to fight God at the end.
Corrupting purgatory, corrupting heaven.
Oh,
as well.
right, okay. It'd be like the demons
Then
are
in eternal.
traveling as well, kind of
I
thing.
think so.
Yeah, I definitely
yeah.
was excited to see more of it.
Yeah.
It is
Yeah.
a shame that it stopped there. Was it poorly received? Just that it didn't really get much attention, really, isn't it?
Well, it was, I think, just considered, a God of War clone, I suppose.
Yeah, it was considered uninspired, nearly, was it?
Yeah.
Mm.
But I just think that's just a poor excuse. Like, there's so many games that are like each other. There's not many games like God of War.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's like grabbing any FPS then and saying, well, that's just a
Call of
clone
Duty.
of. Yeah, but even like, okay, so Halo is was more popular than Call of Duty at a point, and it'd be like, oh, Call of Duty is, even though it's not in space or whatever, because Dante's Inferno is not in Greek mythology, but like it'd be like going, oh, Call of Duty is just a rip off of Halo, and you're like, it's really not, it's okay, yes, it's in first person and it's a shooter, but they're actually, if you play the game, they're very fucking different. So like Dante's Inferno and God of War, yes, they're both third person and they're both violent. That's pretty much where the similarities end. They've got the hack and slash thing. There's plenty of hack and slashers out there.
I really like the choice as well, like, because you had Death's Scythe and then you had Beatrice's Cross, and you could decide, like, you could go through it and decide whether you're going to like absolve all the sinners of their crimes, or you absolve the demons, or just murder all of them if you wanted to. Like,
I think it was closer to Devil May Cry than it was God of War, personally.
I do too, yeah. I actually would have made more comparisons to that. I think as well it was cool, the characters that you could meet in hell, like some of them and you'd learn about like their sins in their life, and like it was all very interesting. It was all very mythological. It was cool.
I think each game that I'm going to mention, I personally think deserves some sort of follow-up.
Cool. Okay. Yeah.
So, and I think that's where it's like the studio got, I don't know if Dante's Inferno did, I don't know if the ratings were that bad for it, but all I know is that studio doesn't exist and they're not making the games anymore.
Oh yeah. Okay.
So you can kind of put two and two together, I suppose, and say that game didn't do as well as they were hoping, and I just think it's so sad, because I think that studio made really, really interesting games, and I would love to have seen them continue. The other is The Order 1886, which is the one that I mentioned. In
the 50 questions.
The 50 questions. Another game that that one is probably, out of all the ones I'm going to mention, that one's reviewed the worst. I think that's closer to the 6 out of 10 in terms of ratings.
Yeah.
And I really don't get it.
Why? Okay, so before you talk about how much you like it, right? Now I've seen it. I actually haven't played this game, so but I know you and Eric have played it, so you guys could probably weigh in on a lot more, and I could just kind of ask questions. But before you talk about what you like about the game, because I know Eric, you liked it too. Why do you think people dislike it? First of all,
it was shorter than they were expecting in terms of the campaign.
Yeah.
I cleared it in about. I cleared it in about 12 hours, but I've heard people clearing it in 7 or 8.
Okay.
I have no idea how people did that, but yeah, apparently
that's impressive.
they must have just skipped all the cutscenes, because there's a shit ton of cutscenes.
Yeah, so I suppose we're talking about actual gameplay.
Yeah, but like I think that was another thing. Like I remember like growing up, and when Metal Gear Solid 4 was coming out, people I was hanging out were giving out about that game because 50% of it was cutscenes. So I think it might be like the same thing. People with The Order 1886 didn't like the idea that there was so many cutscenes, not enough gameplay. There was some chapters that were actually just cutscenes. Like so some, like you have this chapter 8 and they have a name, and it's just we're just watching the people talk, like, and that's it for the whole thing. So I reckon that's why, and then they're paying what, like 60, 70 euro or something for it. There wasn't.
Yeah, I think
Adam, I think you mentioned.
I think the price was not like when it launched. It was quite early enough into the PS4 era. I think it launched at around 70 quid. So I think going in and paying that much and having all this expectation for it, and it doesn't live up to that, I think leaves a sour taste in your mouth. Now, when like I think Eric, I bought it for you as a present, I think. It was 30 quid, and it was well worth the 30 quid, I think.
Okay. Yeah.
So I think price is definitely a factor here. I think it was too expensive for what it was offering, and I think that could sway people. But I think if you can pick that up, I've seen it as low as 10 quid on the PSN.
Do you think if people who have never played it now, and for like the 10 quid,
I think they'll definitely get enjoyment out of it for €10. Absolutely.
Yeah, and if they don't, it'll just be.
The gameplay is not the best either, which I do think is it got a lot of criticism for gameplay. It's fine, it serves the purpose, but it's not. It really isn't the. I don't think you really necessarily play it for gameplay, but it is engaging enough to keep playing. I think the shooting in it is actually fine. I think the weapon choices in it are pretty good. There's werewolf fights in it which are not great, and I think that's an issue. I think that they could have done more there.
Yeah, they're very repetitive. It's you're either slicing them with a machete or you're just kind of waiting for them to poke their heads out.
Yeah, they could have
very
done
much it,
a lot more in that department. But the reason I can't empathize with people who really, really dislike that game is because, as far as I'm concerned, this is a story-driven game. The performances are really good. The graphics are really good. The animation is really good, especially for when this came out. Like, games have improved since, but when this first came out, this was the best looking thing on PS4.
Yeah, and it took a long time before anything caught up with it.
And it was better looking than anything on the Xbox at the time as well.
You could go back to play and it looks better than some games we're getting nowadays. Like, because there's one bit like the main guy goes into a pub and there's just a close up of a beer bottle and it genuinely looks real. Like, the graphics are phenomenal.
Yeah.
For it.
And the score is incredible, I think, as well. It's the composer is Jason Graves, who did the Tomb Raider game.
Oh yeah.
And it's really fucking good. The sound department is really good. Just there's so much to like about it. The stealth mechanics in it are probably the worst part of the game, and they're forced and scripted and not great. But the reason I can't empathize is, like, you've got all this stuff that's like really, really good about it. I would say let's average it out. It's a 10-hour game then. It took me 12, took others 8, but let's say it's 10. Every Telltale game, ever, right? The gameplay is not good. You can't say the gameplay is good. You have to press a button. The graphics are not great. The performances are questionable, right? Sometimes they're good, other times they're pathetic. And you can clear it in about 10 hours. So why is it that can get like a 10 out of 10 and like the Order gets thrown under the bus? Like, that's the kind of thing. It's like, it's so weird to me to say, like, where you can say this game is actually fine and that game is not fine when there's so much kind of parallels.
Yeah.
That's my thing with it. I don't think The Order is an amazing game. I don't think it's a 10 out of 10. I don't even think it's a 9 out of 10. I just think it doesn't deserve the kind of backlash it got, that there's not going to be a sequel now. And that's what makes me annoyed about it. Yeah. It's like, it's so clear that they could take the criticism and make a second game, because there's definitely a story there that's worth, and a world that's worth exploring. Like, it's kind of like Underworld meets Van Helsing.
Yeah.
It's got that steampunk,
which is super interesting.
Yeah. It really does need a sequel. It would definitely improve on everything that anyone has complaints about. But it's not going to happen now. And that's a studio that slipped out of Sony. Like, they're gone off to make something else entirely. The sequel to The Order would have been a really good game.
Sadly lost.
Yeah.
Rest in peace. Yeah. Order 1887. Do you think that's how they would have called it? Do you think they would have gone by year to show you it's a sequel, or do you think they would have said the Order 1886 too?
No, I think it would have been some other year, maybe.
The Order 1886 with a or just the Order and a different subtitle, maybe.
1896.
That would be the smarter option. Is just to go the Order and then another subtitle, or just to go by year.
Yeah. Eric, do you have anything further to add to that game? I know you also really liked that game.
Yeah, I didn't. Like, it actually took me quite a lot longer to clear it, which is what furthered my point of not just enjoying it, but not understanding everyone's complaint. Because everyone was saying, oh, it's like a 6-hour game. And I was like, well, it's taken me like 4 weekends to clear it. And considering I clear most games in like 3 hours, I don't really...
Regardless of how long they are.
Yeah, no matter how
long they are. It's just... Yeah,
I finished The Witcher 3's 100 hours in 3 hours, man.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, she was just over there, like, you know. I don't know. I don't get it. So I
I don't. Is that a joke about Siri? Is it?
Yeah, it's
okay,
about Siri.
Yeah. Okay.
Um,
I just had
well
to
done,
clarify.
Chris.
Yeah. Thanks, man. I'm with it. I'm with it.
You get a badge for that. Good job.
Thanks, bro. I'm gonna stick it right on my fridge.
So yeah, like the game was really. I didn't mind less. The gameplay is not really anything new, but it was familiar enough for me to be able to just jump into it and not be like kind of like distracted or still trying to learn the rules. You know, I mean, like again, Ghost of Tsushima was so easy to jump into play because it kind of felt like The Witcher playing it, while still having its own stuff to make it unique. I felt the Order was the same. The Order kind of felt like Gears of War almost with its cover shooter.
Yeah.
But it had its own stuff as well that made it unique as well. And I just loved the design. I love the 1880s going through Whitechapel, and then you're like, the police are talking about like Jack the Ripper and stuff, and like, you know, how these rebels wanting to take down the Queen, and then like you have like the airships and like all the steampunk
It's a
technology.
super cool time period to explore in a game, isn't it?
It was so cool, and then like, I mean, spoiler alert. Can I do spoiler?
Yeah, you can spoil this game. I think everyone hates it anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, spoil the fuck out of it.
You had like the East India Trading Company, which I think were a bunch of bastards. Throughout their time.
More like the East India Bastard Company, am I right? Yeah, bro.
And they were being used to transport werewolves and vampires into America to infect America because they already had their like monopoly on Europe and stuff. So it was like that whole conspiracy thing going on. Like, everything they were exploring was so fucking good that I was like, please make a sequel, but no.
And weren't the Order like Arturian?
The Knights Templar. They're the Knights Templar, yeah.
No, they're not Knights Templar. They're the Knights of the Round
Sorry,
Table.
Knights of the Round
Sorry,
Table.
Knights of the Round Table. My bad.
You're thinking of Dante's Inferno again.
Yeah, I was going back to that. Yeah, so they were Knights of the Round Table. They're all the knights were named after like the original knights.
Like that's
that were,
also I
with,
love that's cool. That's kind of like
Arthur,
the Kingsman thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's fucking awesome. And I think they were teasing at the end of the game that Arthur is still alive.
Yeah, and didn't the villain get away?
Oh man, so they set it up for a sequel.
Oh,
It was left open for a sequel.
Do you think it'd be pretty sick if at some point they just who cares that it wasn't well received? They just announce a sequel. How excited would you guys be? Would you be like,
I'd be very
I don't
fucking
care what
excited.
everyone else thinks. I'm fucking super excited.
Sony owns the IP. It is Sony's property. Just give it to another studio then that you would give it to Blend Studio or something.
Why do you think the studio was the problem, or are they disbanded, or what?
It's just that Sony doesn't own the studio.
All right, okay.
And I think the studio was a little like that. This is their first console game. They've been making kind of PSP ports, I think, for Sony for a long time.
Yeah.
And then they were given the opportunity to make a full console game, which is really impressive. I think they were kind of saying, okay, we want to show that we can make a AAA game, like real high quality, all that kind of stuff. And perhaps they focused way too much on the art department side of things.
Yeah.
That they didn't focus enough on the gameplay and the gameplay loop. Like I totally agree with the criticisms of the gameplay. I think it definitely has room for improvement.
Oh yeah.
But like you think about Assassin's Creed,
though, right? That's what
sequels are for. Assassin's Creed.
Yeah.
Right? I love Assassin's Creed not because of the gameplay. The gameplay fucking sucks. The gameplay loop sucks. What was cool about Assassin's Creed was like the time period, the era, the lore. And if they never got the opportunity to make Assassin's Creed 2, we wouldn't be waiting for Valhalla. Valhalla wouldn't exist. So sequels really do take games to the next level. I always feel like the first game in the series is just kind of like an appetizer. It's a taster. It's world building, etc. But it's the sequel that really takes them off.
Yeah, and
because
look at Uncharted is a fantastic example of that, where Uncharted 1 surprised a lot of people. You know, it did do well, but no one was really that excited for it beforehand, and it just happened to pick up the right audience, and it was just done so well. But then Uncharted 2 took the world by storm. You know, it was like now it's one of the biggest franchises ever. as a result of that game, and going forward.
The original Mass Effect trilogy, if you take the first Mass Effect, the gameplay
No,
to that
that's-
is fucking
Yeah,
horrendous.
There's not
Oh, it's
many
atrocious.
games. There's
It's
not many
atrocious.
games where the first one, like, oftentimes I would prefer the first game over the second one out of like nostalgia, and it like introduced me to it.
Yeah.
But there isn't many games that you can name where the sequel isn't dramatically better than the first one.
He's right. I can't think of one. Resident Evil 2 was better than Resident Evil 1. He's right.
Gears 2?
Oh, Gears 2. Gears 2
was better than
Gears
first
1
one,
was
yeah.
fine. Gears 2 was one of the best fucking Xbox 360 games ever.
Yep.
Ever. So
Halo 2. I think
Yeah.
Halo 2 again was the one that brought everyone in.
Yeah.
I think the second one that brings everyone in.
What did you say there? Because it froze, right? And it froze on a word that made it then sound like you said one of the rudest words that you can possibly say on the internet. So what did you actually say? Which I won't say because people really hate that word.
Right, okay. Bad words. Anyway, it's the second game that really brings everyone together. You know what I mean? Like,
Okay, I don't know
Like-
what you were trying to say before that because that word never showed up in that sentence.
I think I chose my words carefully.
Yeah, maybe it is. Like, yeah. Fuck bad words. Anyway, Adam, was there any other games you wanted to give a shout out to before I see what Eric wants to add to the?
Death Stranding.
Oh yeah. Go on then. Go on. Eric, you
obviously,
agree?
I've talked about Death Stranding in the 2019 games,
Yes.
game of that year. But just thinking back on it, and it's like, I don't. It didn't get rated badly. It didn't get review bombed or anything like that. I think its user rating is not great. But I think this game gets dismissed by people who have never actually played the game. Reviewing it as kind of a walking simulator, which as if that's some sort of insult. But I think it's
That's exactly what he wanted to make.
it's
So-
not, but it's not fair to call it a walking simulator because it's a hiking simulator, and hiking and walking are two different things.
But as well, some of my favorite games, PT was a walking simulator if you really think about it.
Yeah,
And it was one of the greatest gaming
Firewatch.
experiences ever. Yeah, like
Fire-
I don't know
Firewatch is
why
good, actually.
saying something like, "Oh, that
Journey.
game is just a walking simulator." I don't know why that's an insult.
Yeah, so going back to what I was saying about, the complaints about whether it's the order and what I was saying about, like, well, why is that considered bad, but the Telltale games isn't, when both of them are just story-driven games. Similar here, then it's like, okay, well, why can you shit all over Death Stranding for being essentially a walking simulator, but like what you said, like PT is fine, Firewatch is fine, any of those type of games where you're just essentially like our favorite level in The Last of Us Part 2 was just walking around a museum.
Yeah. Or even some of the best parts in like the Arkham games, for example, right? Which have, huge amounts of gameplay in terms of stealth and combat and all this stuff. Some of the best parts are those moments where you get into Batman's psychology and it goes first person and you just walk around some room or some hall and he's having some scarecrow freak out moment or some Joker hallucination or something like that. Those are some of the fucking standout points of those games. And again, walking simulators.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I see Death Stranding, like I understand that Death Stranding is not for everyone, just like those other games we just mentioned aren't for everyone. FIFA's not for everyone. Racing games aren't for everyone. I understand that, but to just dismiss it for that reason, like I compare Death Stranding to the likes of Interstellar, right? It has an amazing world. It sets up this incredible science fiction. And it's so deep in mythology. And the thing is, it gives you everything in the game. It leaves nothing open for a sequel. It covers everything.
Yep.
Completely. Much like Interstellar does. But it's not focused on action. It really isn't. It's about getting from A to B, and the challenge is the environment. You have to keep your hands on the controllers at all times, and you're balancing basically, because a single trip over a rock which in a normal game you just run over it no problem. In this, it could detrimentally affect your cargo, which, you're relying on getting a good review. It's like similar to if someone showed up to your house, a Fastways turns up to your house and hands you a package that's like crushed and shit like that, you're going to be pissed off at them.
Yeah.
There is a sense of realism tied into this game, and that gameplay loop is oddly addictive. It's similar to like when I'm playing Ghost of Tsushima and I'm coming across a Mongol camp and I see those bonus objectives.
Yeah.
Right? I'm like, all right, I want to prioritize that. Well, why do I want to prioritize that? Because if I do everything else, I'll get past it, but I'll get more if I do the bonus.
Yes.
That same drive is here with Death Stranding. Is you're trying to get the packages to different preppers, and you're trying to up their star rating. In doing so, will get you more stuff. But there's not there is action. But those are actually some of the most boring parts of the game.
They're pretty shite.
They really are.
Yeah.
But I liken it to Interstellar, where the most fucking badass moment in Interstellar is them struggling to open a door.
Yeah. Incredible.
Right? It's incredible. It's an amazing moment. It's like there is no action. There's just tension.
Yeah.
Because you know what's at stake.
Yes.
And you know what's at stake.
Or even just them on trying to get into a ship before a wave hits them.
Yeah.
When you know what that means, and when you know what that will cost them getting hit by that wave.
And the thing is with Death Stranding is that if you kill someone in the game, it will cause a void out, which renders that part of the map useless.
Okay.
You can it's not. I think it's quite rare. I've never caused a void out in my entire playthrough the game. I think it's
3.
Caused 3.
Not that rare.
It's but it is like a nuke going off. That part of the map is gone.
No, it's well, every time for me a void out happened, it actually started again for me. I think I got caught in the void out every time. Nope.
Oh, and then it kills you and you have to do it again?
Yeah. So okay. I think you gotta go find the baby. You gotta find the body and then waken the baby again or whatever fucking shit that they're. I don't know.
I think I said at the start with this topic, guilty pleasures, and I think that's the wrong word, actually. I think underappreciated games,
yes,
in our opinion, is probably the right way to look at it. Because we're not guilty about any of these, I suppose, and they're not like secret hidden games that is like, oh, I don't want anyone to know I like it. I would hate anyone to walk in and see me play. It's more like underappreciated games we feel like didn't get the proper appreciation that maybe they deserve, or at least a little bit more.
I mean, yeah, because than
they deserve.
For like guilty pleasure or something like.
When you look at Death Stranding, right, you know immediately whether or not you're going to enjoy it.
Yeah, you know it's not for everyone.
Yeah, and you know whether you're going to like it or not. But I just feel there are people who go out of their way to
dislike it,
hate on it.
Yeah.
Even though they know they're not going to like it. I'm not saying give it a go. Don't give it a go, because it's very clear that it's not for you.
Yeah.
But there are people who do enjoy it. I've enjoyed it. I think the story is like next level. Oddly enough, like even though it doesn't open up as a sequel or for a sequel, it doesn't leave it open at all. It is a world I would love to go back to and kind of wonder what happens afterwards.
Yeah.
In that world. I'd like to see what those other characters are up to. He did really set up like a really intriguing universe.
Eric, you were about to say something about guilty pleasures at the same time. What were you about to say?
Well, because you're talking about obviously if we were playing Death Stranding or The Order or Dante's Inferno or whichever, yeah, we're not really going to be that embarrassed if anyone walks in. But let's say now I've never played the game Catherine.
All right, okay.
But let's say hypothetically I did. Yeah, people do love that game. But let's say hypothetically I had that game and I really liked it. I probably would be a little bit like, I don't want anyone to walk in while I'm climbing up this fucking weird Tetris tower in wearing undies, carrying a pillow, and I got some goat horns and I got other sheep falling to their death. It's a bit weird,
Yeah,
plus some of the other stuff that they do in that game.
Yeah, if I enjoyed, which I don't, if I enjoyed Final Fantasy X-2, that one would be a guilty pleasure. I would not
Yeah.
want anyone to walk in as I play that game.
Or to some extent,
That-
Pokemon.
It's cringy as fuck. Pokemon. I don't know if I get it with Pokemon, to be honest.
No, but like, if someone, if like your mom or dad walked in while you were playing Pokemon, you're like 30 years of fucking age. Like, it does seem a bit.
Okay, yeah.
Seem a bit
Well,
weird.
yeah.
doesn't it?
If it turned out I liked fucking bug snacks, I'd feel pretty fucking guilty about that. I think. 'Cause I just think
I'm not saying there's anything wrong with Pokemon. I fucking love Pokemon, but
No,
you got
I
to
I
admit,
know.
looking at it from someone else's perspective,
Yeah.
it can be a bit weird.
It's like, dude, when are you gonna grow up? Like,
I mean,
It's like I would if this wasn't so fucking good.
Final Fantasy VII Remake. Like, not wanting
There are
mom or dad
moments-
to
like the
walk
dance
in.
there are
sequence.
moments in
The
that for
dancing
sure.
sequence,
The
yeah.
dancing,
Or
yeah.
the squatting and everything. Like, those bits, I'd be like, I don't really want mom and dad to walk in right now. Please don't.
Just as a quick one before we move on, because I don't
Yeah.
guilty pleasures is not one that I think would ever make like an actual full episode. Like underappreciated games is a much better one. But I think if someone ever was to ask what's a guilty pleasure, it just came to mind there now. Like SingStar 80s. Like as a gamer, saying that you like one of the SingStar games is probably but I had really enjoyed SingStar 80s. That was a good party game. Anyway, so there you go. Eric, did you have any games you wanted to add to the list of underappreciated games?
Right. Like, no. To be honest, I think Adam kind of like hit them on the head. I'm trying to think, because I was going to talk about Mass Effect Andromeda,
Oh yeah.
but like I've tried every time to go back and play that game, but because the maps are so big,
Yeah.
and because there's like so much to do, and like the campaign is kind of like it's essentially nearly a rehash of Mass Effect 1, the very first one. The gameplay and graphics are obviously better than Mass Effect 1, but there's also something about the gameplay that makes it somewhat shit as well. I don't know what it is about it. This kind of feels weird. I think it's like the choice, like, because at the start of Mass Effect you get to choose your class,
Right. Yeah.
like the soldier or the vanguard or the engineer or whatnot. But in this you can just swap out whenever you want, and I don't really like that.
Okay.
Because
Wait,
it's
are
almost
you
like too
for
much.
or against?
Yeah, I can't.
I
tell.
don't know, like
How do you feel?
I don't like. I enjoyed the game. I played and I cleared it. Like I
You-
did
okay.
everything
Well, first
in
of
the
all,
game.
just before you go
I
any-
want a sequel. I want a sequel.
okay,
right,
so
because
before you go any
again-
further, do you think Mass Effect Andromeda was underappreciated? Like, do you think it's as bad as the world generally made it out to be, or do you think there's something good in there that that it's not all bad?
I think there's potential. I think there
Okay.
is potential. Now, yeah, obviously, most of the hate was actually due to bugs, which
Yeah.
I didn't get that many
All right. Yeah.
bugs. So actually, for mine, it was actually pretty good. But I do like what they're doing, where they're going at. A lot of references that they had to the previous trilogy, and again, like with Mass Effect 1, you don't really care about your teammates until Mass Effect 2 and 3. So again, while I don't really care about my team now, I hope they make another one where again I can develop and my characters can become my new like best friends in the virtual world. That sounds really sad, but
But Garrus was my best buddy.
It's more likely that you're going to get another Mass Effect. Like, that is likely.
yeah, which I do
Well,
want
I don't know.
because I really love.
but I don't know if they'll do a sequel to Andromeda.
They might.
They might not. I don't know.
Yeah, I think
well,
they-
as long as they fix everything, like it's mainly just bugs. It's mainly
it's
just
kind
the
of
bugs that
like the way I look at it
and
is
the
that
game crashed.
although there may be a single game that's not great, in this case being Andromeda, the Mass Effect IP carries
yeah.
so much weight
Huge.
that I think they could easily do an Andromeda sequel. Because the like people will buy it because it says Mass Effect on it. There's a level of trust with it.
I have a feeling, and of course this is purely speculation. I could be totally wrong, and I don't know what form it would take. But strangely, just to get excitement and also to take away from, because so many people disliked Andromeda, I just have a strange feeling that the next Mass Effect game will be titled Mass Effect 4.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what that means. Like, I'm not saying that means that they'll somehow bring Shepard back or anything like that, but I think it will be titled very boldly Mass Effect 4. This is the official 4th installment in the actual Mass Effect franchise.
Like
As if Andromeda then became a sort of like a side project thing. That's purely speculation. That's not going off any kind of rumors or anything like that. But I just have a feeling that's what they're going to do next.
But I'm really excited for the fact that they're bringing back the trilogy.
Yeah, is that happening, or is that just a rumor?
I hope it's happening, because I've been watching some clips on YouTube of like just the characters having conversation. I was like, fucking my buddies, like my pals having conversation. So good. I want that. If they brought it out on the next gen console as well, I would like Mass Effect Trilogy remastered totally on the PS5. Yeah. I would play the shit out of it. It probably comes actually here's a thing that's like, because this also got shat on, and I had no problem with the Mass Effect 3 ending, and that massively got shat on. People
actually, you know what? Good shout out. Mass Effect 3, I think, is underappreciated.
Like, yeah, so many people get that ending and then just go, the whole game or the whole trilogy is now shit just because that one ending. And it's like, hang on now. You can't fucking do that. All right?
I felt that way with Game of Thrones.
Yeah, that happened too.
I mean, like, the way it's like, it's like that one season was shit, therefore the entire series is shit.
It's like now if you say, I love Game of Thrones is my favorite show, the first thing someone will say is like, but the last season was shit, man. It's like, whoa.
Yeah, it's like, okay, it was, but it was great up till then.
It's like, actually, there was a time where, I don't think it is my favorite show anymore, but I still have a soft spot for it. There was a time Lost was my absolute favorite TV show. Yeah. I still really like it. I have the entire collection. But if you say I love Lost, but the ending was shit, man, again, is the same thing you get. Like, the ending was shit. They were all dead, man. It's like, okay, first of all, they weren't. But also, it's like, did you even watch the fucking thing? But also, it's like, that doesn't mean the whole show is terrible. The first 3 seasons are some of the best fucking thing that ever happened to television. Like, calm down. But yeah, it's interesting that because the ending.
I think the reason people had an issue, because I can empathize with the controversy over the ending of Mass Effect 3, and it's that having the fact that choices has been such a huge thing throughout the entire trilogy, and that they make huge consequences throughout the game, that having it just boil down to the few that were there felt like the choices they were making throughout had no consequence. It's like, why did that matter? I could just have a very linear game and then just boil down to these few. So I do get the criticism. I think it could have been handled better. I don't know how they could do it. I think it'd be very difficult to do something conclusive like that. But they managed it with the end of 2, so they could, I think, do it for 3.
The way that I viewed it was that Mass Effect 1 and Mass Effect 2. So Mass Effect 1, they set up lots of different story arcs. There's the main story arc about the Reapers, but there's other story arcs like the Genophage is a big one, that carries on, or there's a few others that are continuous. That there's not all just one big plot. Mass Effect 2 then adds a couple more plots, but then it adds further layers to those plots that were set up in the first one, and you make further choices that will impact that. Mass Effect 3 was really about tying up all those story arcs. It wasn't about adding more. Like, you finish up, you decide what happens with the Genophage, which is you can either cure it or not.
Yeah.
You decide, there was a couple of quests where it's like, it actually, all your decisions in the last one is not to ultimately see what happens at the end of that game. You're actually just tying up everything that happened in the last 2 games. Now, okay, people might not like that either, but that's actually what it was. And then at the end of the game, your final choice is to tie up what happens at the Reapers. And it has implications. It's like, okay, you can keep them, control them, which is what the Elusive Man wanted all along. And that way, we save all synthetic life. You can destroy them, which destroys all synthetic life. You're going to kill all the Geth too, who are now on your side. And, there was like huge implications about But really, all you were doing was tying up the story. You weren't. It wasn't.
Do you think there's definitely just to kind of before you get any further, is that there's just this mob mentality to everything we've just been talking about? Because I remember actually purchasing the order for Eric, and when I went up to buy it, the person behind the counter actually looked at me and then said, "Are you serious?" And
That's weird.
I said, yeah, why? It's like, because it's really bad. And I was like, did you play it? And he said, no, but I heard bad things. I was like, well, then you can't actually say anything, can you? Because you didn't play
weird.
it.
That's like
so
that's so weird. Imagine going to the cinema and the person not selling you the ticket because they're like, I've heard this film sucks. I haven't watched it myself, but like it's got bad reviews. It's like, I'm paying, like, this is a good thing for you. Like, let me in.
Yeah, but it is a bit mental that people just are kind of unwilling. Like, I love talking to people that have such a difference of opinion. Like, because I do know people that like things that I hate, or well, hate's a strong word, but dislike, and dislike things that I love.
This is actually, just before you go further, this is why our discussions suck. Because we generally feel pretty similar about stuff. We very rarely disagree on something.
Sure.
But sorry, what you're saying?
But it's just, yeah, it's nice to have those type of conversations because you can see where other people are coming from and what matters to them, and like the fact that we kind of universally go, that's good and this is bad, and we just accept it and move on. I think people are kind of fearful to actually talk about it. Like I openly say I really enjoy the order, and I've often had people like say to me, but it's really bad. Why is it bad? And then they give me the reasons. It's like, well, what about this game then? Yeah, but that one's good. Why is that? Like, it's
right.
Like there is definitely like a mob mentality. Like with the Mass Effect 3 ending, a lot of people do say, well, at the time they said the game was shit because of that ending.
Yeah.
Give them a fucking remaster, they'll go out and buy it.
Absolutely. No, look, I mean, I personally, I prefer Mass Effect 2, and that's not because everyone does. Everyone does prefer Mass Effect 2. It is the best game in the trilogy. It is. Like, but that's definitively, and that's because of how built up the characters are. You have such a huge, like my biggest criticism of Mass Effect 3 actually had nothing to do with the ending. It had to do with how small your party was. I felt like for the final game and for the final push, and like there was huge epic missions, but it's such a small party, and there was only like one or two of them I ever actually wanted to bring with me. Whereas in Mass Effect 2, you had a huge cast, and you could bring different people on different missions, and they'd give you different input depending on which mission you went on, and then you might replay it to see what'll happen then if I did this thing with that person, or there's a great cast of characters. But yeah, Mass Effect 3, like the scope of it is epic. The missions are epic. The music is epic. Like, it's a huge epic game, and I think to put it down to just I'm disappointed with how it ended, which like it could have been, that could have gone many different ways. Like even if you had more choices, you could have made a choice where the ending then turned out to be lackluster, and it's like now it's my fault that the game sucked. Because I'm serious, like sometimes you play a Telltale game and you make a choice where it's like, that was actually pretty fucking underwhelming. I should have done the other thing. Now I have to push on. I did not understand the hit, and I remember like there was like a few of my friends were playing Mass Effect 3 around the same time, and some of them were pretty disappointed with it, and they were like, "Do you not think the ending sucks?" Like, and I was like, "No, I don't actually. I just think the ending is the ending, and I chose the Paragon or I chose the Renegade, whatever. Like, same as every other choice in the game, really. Like, to make it out like you always had hundreds of choices, you really only ever have 3. The only time you have more than 3 choices is when it's like there's a couple of topics.
A bunch of questions
that you can ask someone about to find out lore. There's not a bunch of choices.
Yeah, but I think where they're coming from, though, is not so much that. Is that, like, if we took Infamous, for example,
right,
where you can go down a good road or a bad road, or even, actually, I suppose Force Unleashed doesn't really do that. But if you go really bad through Infamous, but at the end of the game, you do one, you can then decide, do you want to do a good act or bad act, and then you do a good act, and it completely undoes your entire journey.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
I guess, I think that's where people are coming from. It's like, all your actions can be kind of like just brushed aside down to just this choice at the end.
Yeah.
I think that's what the issue is. Like, I see where you are coming from as well, and like it's like this is just another mission
Choice. I mean,
where
you
can have a choice.
Yeah.
But I
You have
think
four-
yeah.
You see, I always have
You have 4 choices at the end of the game, like, so.
Yeah, but I think, see, where I always come from is I used to play D&D, and there was always a thing where people were like, oh, and choose your character's alignment, which is like it can be lawful good or totally totally bad or lawful bad or this bullshit. I was like, okay, what does that fucking mean? It means that in any given scenario, you should do the thing that person would do. I was like, okay, well, can I not just look at the scenario and decide what I'd like to do in that moment? What would that be? I suppose it'd be neutral, but that's pretty boring. Right, I'll go with neutral. Fuck that. I want to be able to decide for myself when I'm in a scenario. And so this whole thing of like, I don't know, like you now have to stick to the choices you made earlier because like people change. I just find that the Mass Effect situation by situation is actually more natural than well, I've done 90% Renegade, so there's no possibility of Paragon anymore.
Yeah.
Because life is in the moment. It's not fucking, no one's going to hold me up and go, you can't buy that chocolate bar. You always said you hated chocolate.
Like criticizing Darth Vader from actually returning as a Jedi at the end.
Yeah, you're bang on. It's exactly like that. It's like, well, that choice is totally out of character. Not really. It's deep down in there, and like choices are, yeah. It's just this weird thing of where there's often, I find people often criticize characters where they go, they did something totally out of character. Now, sometimes that's true, where there is
like throwing your lightsaber over your shoulder off a cliff, like.
Exactly like that. Yeah, where it's like, why the fuck would Luke do that? This is so disrespectful to his father and his legacy. But, yeah, this whole thing of like, well, you've gone down this path, so you have to stick to that path. I don't buy it. That doesn't work for me. I just don't think humans do that. Yeah. Sorry, we went down a weird road there. But Eric, did you have any other games you wanted to talk about that you feel are particularly underappreciated?
Not.
I don't even know if you wanted to talk about 3. You just mentioned it, and then I went, yes, actually, fucking that one. Yeah, Mass Effect 3.
Yeah, well, because I know, like, yous were essentially, because yous 2 definitely had good ones, like, so I kind of just brought up Andromeda because I thought to myself, well, I did enjoy that game, and I would want to see a sequel to it, because like with Dante's Inferno, or like with The Order 1886, I hate seeing something that has potential not being finished. It's a fucking, I don't even know if I'd count it as a pet peeve. I'm going to count it as a pet peeve of mine. Like, it's so annoying watching, because it's actually, they had the whole story set up for Andromeda and these characters, and I was like, I can absolutely see this being good. All they needed to do is fix a few things, like customizing your character is fucking shit in it, but like just fix that, and then obviously all the big bugs and stuff, and that'd be good. Then I just thought to myself, the ending to Mass Effect 3, I had no problem with it. I remember loads of people having a problem with it, so much so that BioWare had to like make a new ending, sort of, or like extend the ending
over
so
again.
That it was, win people.
Not like it was
over,
huge.
It was
like, that was a huge talking point across the game.
Yeah. I'm not 100% sure if there was any other games that I liked that loads of people disliked, apart from the ones that Adam has mentioned and that you're going to mention, Chris.
Well, I tell you what,
I don't know what you're going to talk about, but I agree.
There's my segue onto you. You know?
Thanks, Eric. Thanks, bro.
That sounded like a conclusion to an essay, by the way.
Yeah. I liked your introduction and your conclusion, but your main body needs work. I want to give a quick shout out to, we won't go into it, we've talked about it loads, but for me personally, I want to give a shout out to The Last of Us 2. Obviously critically has done very well, but user reviews, I think that game is underappreciated. And like we've talked already, like, yes, we have issues with the story and the structure, but the game itself, how the sound works and how the graphics are and how the acting is, and And personally, I enjoyed the gameplay. I know it's not for everyone, but I enjoyed the gameplay. So I think that's a game that's underappreciated, and similarly has that mob mentality where like there was people shitting on the game who also like okay,
Never
there's
played
people,
it.
yeah, there was people who played it and didn't like it, and that's fine, and they have every right not to like it. They don't like the choices that were made. Naughty Dog knew, they've said it many times, that we know some people are not going to like this game because of the choices we're making. Ultimately, the killing Joel thing, right? So
I've heard comments of people saying that like I just don't like that that he dies from this trans character, and it's like he doesn't.
Yeah, you obviously, yeah, that's it's like
you
okay,
haven't you haven't played the game.
fucking game.
You haven't played it.
Yeah. So yeah, I get if someone has played it and doesn't like it, and that's totally fine. But there was a huge, crazy mob mentality that I absolutely hated. It was toxic. It was horrible. It made the internet a horrible place for a couple of weeks from people who were just hating this thing just because it was like the in thing or something like that. And I felt like as a result, the game, I don't think it's personally, I don't think it's game of the year. I have actually played something that I think deserves game of the year this year. But I
oddly
do think
enough, it likely get game of the year
it
out
might,
of some sort of
fuck you to
response. Yeah, so it's
Yeah.
like if you're really hating on something, like this is just going to make the studio, the writers, the producer, the brand, everything. It's actually going to make it stronger, and they're going to come back with more stuff that people are going to dislike.
Yeah.
Because there's things that are like, deserving hate, but this type of hatred looks unjustified. It looks like we've talked about our criticisms, which were never discussed. I never saw anyone.
Yeah, it actually bothered me when I was looking around, and because I was like, yes, there is problems with this game. I like it more than I dislike it, but there is problems, and I'm not overly happy with the direction that the sequel to The Last of Us took, and that's my main criticism. But I was really quite disappointed when looking at other people's discussions of it who disliked it, and I wanted to see why people disliked it, and they weren't delving into that stuff. They were just talking about how they killed Joel and the rest of shit. And then you know what's more shit? They make you play as the person who killed Joel. Oh! And it's just like, right, okay. Why is the game shit, though?
Yeah.
It's just really, I don't know, it was really weird.
People made like stupid arguments like, when Joel tells Ellie that like, she is the only one and he killed the entire. Yeah. I then like people were giving out, I was like, oh, that's such shit writing. Why would she react like that? And it's like, what the fuck do you mean? She's the cure to the entire world, and Joel selfishly decided to save her. Like, of course she's gonna react like that. She would be willing to do anything to save everyone else. And Joel took that away from her. Of course you're gonna react like that.
Yeah, it was weird.
Dog shit.
Like it's kind of it's weird to say that the game is, to include that in an underappreciated game, in the fact that critically it was very well received. And I know plenty of people who played it and absolutely loved it. Like there's people, like when we were teasing talking about it, I got messages from people I know who were like, man, I fucking love this game. It's unreal. Where are you now in it and stuff? Like there are people who absolutely loved it.
Yeah.
I've talked to those people. So it's weird to say it's underappreciated because there are plenty, like there's even groups now. I got added to a group actually where it was like, man, can anyone recommend me something like The Last of Us 2? Because I need more, Like, people fucking loved it. But
Last of Us 1.
So, yeah, try The Last of Us 1, will you? I had played it, Eric. But I do feel that there was a huge community out there who unjustifiably hated it. And that's why I feel it is slightly underappreciated.
Yeah, I definitely
that it should be.
Those bad reviews, I think the majority of those bad reviews came from people who have never played it, who think that there's some sort of weird kind of political agenda behind this game, and got really wrapped up in all that.
Yeah.
And just thought that this was some sort of political war, and it's like, well, just how about stop ruining this medium that's, very inclusive. Like, there's games for you and there's games for everyone else. It's like, just leave it be. Like, it's not going to affect you in any way. Just leave it.
Leave it alone. Yeah, the negative, like, it's just not.
Like, if you really love Joel and you don't want him dead, go play the first one. He's still there.
Still there, bro. It's still there. Yeah. No, and again, totally understand if people dislike the game, but that's not what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I'm talking about this
Hatred.
this hatred. Yeah, that was just for me unjustified.
Yeah.
So in that sense,
Another thing.
sorry, go on.
The same thing happened for like the Order 1886 as well, like, or even Death Stranding. People was like,
It's
oh,
definitely not quite the same, but
no, I know it's not the
Same,
same because they were way worse for Last of Us 2. But that idea of like they see a review as bad and they're like, oh well, it must be bad then, and then they don't play. Obviously, they were like Last of Us 2 almost seems like a cult classic type thing. You know, when films when they first go in the cinema, everyone hates them, and then it's going to be down the line.
this is
Everyone
the
will love
Blade
it.
Runner of
That's
video
what
games.
Last of
Well, I tell you what, I'm reminded of. I was at a event once. I won't use any names, right? But it did like because people might think that that doesn't happen. People don't just jump on the bandwagon and hate things without experiencing it for themselves. Surely, it does happen because there was a discussion on Batman v Superman, right? Which obviously critically did not do well. It got lots of bad reviews, and a lot of people disliked the movie. There was a guy who went on a rant at a like a panel table talk at a thing I was at, and he went on a rant about how Batman v Superman is so shit and that scene, the Martha scene, and then at the end of his rant he said, "No, I haven't even seen the movie, but I know it's terrible." And that's where I was like, okay, like I'm fine with people disliking stuff they've experienced and they actually dislike it. I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
But you cannot bitch on about something and say it's terrible if you haven't actually tried it for yourself. You can't do that and spread the hate.
That's the person that was like hosting a panel, wasn't it?
They're on the panel.
Yeah. And it's just an easy way to get. It's like I know that the majority of the crowd thinks this or feels this way.
Yeah.
And it's an easy way to win them over. You're the equivalent of a politician in that regards.
Yeah. So I don't. Anyway, I'm just trying to say like that mentality does exist.
Yeah.
And it's horrible. It's really not nice. So another game that I feel is underappreciated, and much like the ones we're talking about, I feel deserves a sequel and was definitely setting itself up for sequels, and is clearly not getting them. Is Ninja Theory's Devil May Cry, DMC. Which I think is the best Devil May Cry game. and people hate it. And they hate the portrayal of Dante. I mean, I'm sure there's plenty of people out there who like it too. Like, I'm not unique. I'm not alone here. I know, Eric, you liked it as well, right?
Yeah, I liked it. Yeah.
Previous to that, I liked the Devil May Cry franchise. I liked the style of it, and I liked Demons. I was very much. I remember like the first one. When I first played that, I was into like Blade and stuff at the time.
Yeah.
So anything that had that kind of a thing where it's like you've got a long-coded fucking hero with a sword and guns killing monsters was gonna be cool to me. So I liked Devil May Cry for that kind of thing. I never liked Dante, and my feelings towards Dante have only gotten stronger. And just after that last rant I had, this is from someone who has played Devil May Cry. I've played Devil May Cry 1, I've played Devil May Cry 2, I played a little bit of Devil May Cry 3, not all of it, because I really couldn't stand Dante. And I know that's people's favorite generally. I just could not stand the way he goes on. And I loved Devil May Cry 4. Previous to this one, Devil May Cry 4 was my favorite.
But only because you played as Nero.
I preferred Nero as a character to Dante, yeah, for sure. Now, you still had some of that, like, you can't get away from part of Devil May Cry's thing is that the main character is going to antagonize the villains. That's just part of it, unfortunately. I'm not into that punky attitude. I'm not really into the whole, I'm going to say a smart-ass line. Hey, demon, did you bring your balls to the fight? And then the demon going, I hate you. It's literally fucking Saturday morning children's TV.
Capcom, give this guy a job.
But I could fucking ace that. Yeah, that kind of writing really pisses me off and takes me out of the experience. But
yeah, it's a bit weird having this like Saturday morning, cartoon vibe in a game that's rated 16s.
Yeah, it's like really violent.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I never understood it, but this game So Dante still has that attitude, but I would argue this portrayal of Dante is the best portrayal of Dante. They portray him more of like a rebellious guy.
Yeah. And you can kind of tell with his behavior, it's almost more like a defense mechanism.
Yeah,
he's pushing people away, you know, while the Dante that we see with the more official one is kind of just more like, hey, I'm immortal, can do everything. So, yeah, I'm going to dance like Michael Jackson. It's like, why though? That's
fucking weird. Fucking weird. Yeah, I just love the world that they portray in the Devil May Cry thing. And also, as a fan of Elseworld stories, right? So coming off of, say, DC, for example, where you could take, like, I love the official Batman and Superman canon and stuff, but I also love when someone boldly takes them and does a different spin on it, or does an interesting new take on it. Like the whole, like, the Red Sun Superman story is fascinating, where he lands in communist Russia instead. So what happens if he's now the symbol of Soviet Russia as opposed to the symbol of American freedom, you know? That's such an interesting Elseworld story. So this whole thing of taking the original Devil May Cry story and doing little spins on it, where it's like, so what if, like, Mundus is actually like this political leader and he controls the world, and what if there's like cameras everywhere are actually demons, and the media control people, and people are drinking an energy drink which is actually made from fluids of a demon, and that's what's keeping people down, and they actually can't see the real world in front of them. It's kind of like the Matrix, and people are having like this, there's this whole thing of like Virgil runs this order who are like the rebellion fighting against the demon Mundus, and he finds his brother Dante, and together they can take on the demon who killed their parents, like, or their mother. They really play really interestingly with the mythology, but they also do some really fucking interesting levels in this game. There's a bit where you have to go into a nightclub to fight Mundus's spouse.
mistress.
His mistress more so, yeah. She's not really, yeah. Mainly because she's pregnant. You're going in basically to take her and use the baby as leverage against Mundus, which is fucking cool. Like there's a political shit. There's loads of like, you're playing a political war essentially. But when you go in, the game mode kind of changes, and it's like there's these rounds. She turns it into kind of a game show thing, but then it like the music gets all dancey. You're on these little dance floors. You have to fight these enemies, but on the screen, and it'll go 3, 2, 1, fight, and the fight comes up exactly like Tekken, like a fighting game. Or there's another bit where you're going through a building later on, and you're enacting a plan that someone had set out. But it's happening like in a movie. You're doing it while she's talking about the plan. She's like, step 1, get into the building. Step 2, we're going to get to the elevator. And she was doing it on like a chalkboard. And as you're playing, sometimes the screen turns into like a chalkboard, and these chalk arrows will point to where you need to go and stuff as it's playing out. There's all this really fucking cool stylistic shit that I'm like, Ninja Theory are really like exploring some cool shit here. But you still have that badass Devil May Cry gameplay. You still have the dual wielding pistols, the sword. You have to get new weapons that'll help you get to new platforms and stuff. Like they haven't changed Devil May Cry. They just and there's moments where Dante has actually taken shit really seriously.
I think that's the important word there.
And what, that they have Dante acting seriously?
Yeah.
And they don't like it?
There's something about like I think we can agree that we love quite gritty stuff, things that are quite grounded in reality. People act in a way that they would if they were, in our world.
Yeah.
And there's just, I can just imagine the audience for the Devil May Cry series, like, because 3 is the one that is highly rated, highly regarded, which I hate. I fucking hate the Devil May Cry 3.
3 is the favorite. 3 would be typical.
3 is the favorite. And the reason I hate 3 is because I don't think anyone would go on like Dante. No. At all. I think that's the equivalent of a 6-year-old in school thinking a cool guy goes on like. It's so oddly written. However, I'm not going to shit on people who love Devil May Cry 3. It's like that's their thing.
Yeah.
However, return that courtesy.
Now, in saying that,
I love Dante in Devil May Cry 2.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I actually liked him previously in that too. Yeah, his design, and also he seems a bit more stoic and a bit more serious.
Yeah.
But they've totally taken away from that. And the older he gets, the more embarrassing it is. Like I just thought it was very like with Devil May Cry 5, which I played the demo of. I haven't played the full game. So I can't comment on how the game is. I was interested in Nero.
Watched all the cutscenes, so as like a movie. So I kind of know I know the story, and then the gameplay is more or less the same as all the others. But
yeah,
like the gameplay is
there is a
demo.
Like
yeah, no, I played.
I played the demo, and I didn't clear it. I quit it. I just couldn't get through it, to be honest.
No, I found it kind of uninspiring, but seeing clips of a really older Dante still going on the way he was going on, like there was a bit where he's like there was a cutscene of like a big demon dog or something, and he was like, here boy, and I was like, man, what?
Like what? It's actually because him and Virgil's relationship is so interesting.
Yeah.
And when Dante is dealing with Virgil, he is a completely different person. He does take himself seriously when he's with Virgil. And it's like, why can we not just have that it's a little bit more like, you know?
And there is characters like I'm rewatching BBC Sherlock again. I'm just after starting season 4. And there's elements there where you could kind of say, well, Sherlock goes on a little bit like that. But there's something about how Sherlock is not, although superhuman to some degree, he's not normal. He's really not normal. He fails at basic human interactions and stuff like that, right?
And they point that out. It's
and he's actually kind of a tragic character. Although you look up to him, you don't want to be him.
No.
And I think that's more the area I would love an exploration with Dante. It's like, yeah, if you're going to do this over the top character that's like kind of superhuman in many ways, well, where's his flaws? There has to be a flaw. Where is it?
No, you see, he's a badass pizza eating, rock and rolling, lady getting, demon killing superstar.
He never gets any of the ladies. Everyone else gets everyone, but Dante is like alone all the time.
Yeah, no, but they do this whole thing where it's
he's
I can have you if I want you. Yeah. There you go. Yeah. I just fucking hate Dante.
I think it'd be different if he went on that bit where at the beginning of 3, that's the bit where I'm just like, look, I'm not even going to play this game, to be honest. Is the very beginning when he's like eating the pizza, spinning on people.
Yeah.
Is there anyone there when he's doing that, or is he on his own?
Oh, he's on his own.
That's the problem I have.
He's not even showboating to anyone.
Yeah, if you're showing off, who are you showing off to? You're doing this for yourself. This is weird. This is really weird.
No, it is weird. It's fucking super weird.
I think it'd be very interesting if they now they're never going to do this, but if they did one and delved into the psychology of these monster hunters and everything.
Well, it sounds like DMC was trying to do that.
Oh yeah. Well, that's what it's like. Yeah, it's deep, really meaningful conversation. Devil May Cry. That's what it's called.
Now, in fairness, I can understand if some people felt like DMC was kind of pissing on the series a little bit. It's not. It's a huge love letter, but there's just one moment in it that, again, I suppose for some people could be the equivalent of that starting scene to Devil May Cry 3 for us, where it's like, well, that's just cringy to shit. Okay, that's so horribly cringy that I don't know if I want to play this. There's a scene towards the start of DMC where he's escaping from a monster, and this white wig lands on his head, and it looks exactly like it's the same length as the one from Devil May Cry 3, right? Yeah. And he looks at himself in a mirror, and he looks like Dante as we know him, and he goes, "Never in a million years," and he takes the wig off and just starts shooting demons.
Okay, yeah.
And I can see that might piss people off.
Yeah.
But then he has a devil trigger where his hair turns white and his jacket turns red. And
I love that. I think that's a really nice taste.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, by the end of the game, his hair is permanently white as well. Because as you're playing the game, your hair slowly turns white because he's becoming more attached to his demon side. Because he was originally suppressing that.
Yeah. As well, the soundtrack. I mean, look, they're always big hard rock kind of tunes.
Oh yeah.
Noisia works on the soundtrack in this one. And I was big into what Noisia did with Korn on their dubstep and metal album. And so there's a nice mix of kind of dubstep and rock, which just kind of works with the timing of it, I think. And also his kind of rebellious attitude. I even like there's a character called Kat in it, and she's really cool. She's a great character, but she's like a psychic and sort of like a witch character, and she has stencils of like symbols for opening portals, and she uses spray cans, graffiti, to like open up portals. And there's a point where like Virgil and Dante are walking through this alleyway, and there's all graffiti of the ancient epic like angel demon war from the past. And through graffiti, you get the template of what kind of happened in the past. There's a cool style, there's cool artwork in it, and the fucking it's Bob Ross, isn't it? No, not Bob Ross, the painter. Everyone needs a little friend. No, oh no, it is Bob something.
Don Conroy.
What's his name? Just doing God's work. Do you remember him, Eric? The news guy. And then you have to like he's actually a demon, but he gives you the news, so the media's all.
I can't remember. Oh, sorry, I can't remember the character's name.
Bob Ross though.
It's Bob Ross. Painting pictures for you. No, right.
Yeah.
So there's this big media guy, and you have to kind of enter his realm at one point, and it's done like a prison, and it's all upside down, and you have to like run upside down, and he's actually running this like prison where he's on screens everywhere, and people are just totally dumbed down. It's like fascism basically. And then you have to fight him, and he's like this digital head. But during the fight, it also changes to like you fighting demons, but it turns into like a news channel, and there's like a news chopper following you. And that's your screen while you're controlling your character. And on the news, it's basically you killing innocent police officers and stuff. Or like they'll show while you're in limbo, which is where all the action happens, they'll show the real world where just damages are happening, and they'll talk about like earthquakes or terrorists attacked a Ferris wheel today and stuff like this. It's really cool cover up control shit going on, thematically, which really works. I think. I would have been really interested to see where they were going to go with this reboot DMC series, but it's very clear that with Devil May Cry 5 that they are
they're a Microsoft studio now, sure.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
but either way, well, no, hold on, that doesn't make a difference, does it?
Yeah, it would.
Why?
Well, it's a Capcom IP.
Yeah.
If it was a Microsoft studio, it would mean that they're doing it for Xbox only.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think Capcom are going to limit their IP to a console that...
Let's hope Warner Brothers feel the same way. Oh, God. But yeah, that's one in particular that I feel is underappreciated or doesn't deserve the hate that it gets. And but it does come down to, I think, your preference of Dante's portrayal. I like the way he is in this one.
Because the gameplay is the same, really.
Gameplay is the same, yeah. But I just think the world is interesting in this one. I think it's very... I like the whole thing that people and demons live in the same world together, but the demons actually control the world. And seeing Mundus again was a really cool... Like, it's cool to kind of go back to the roots of it as well, so...
Yep.
But yeah, that's all I have to say on DMC. Eric, did you have anything that you wanted to add before we finish up?
No, I think you covered it all pretty well there, Chris. Because this is what we do here on the Brothers Take. We all agree with each other, and it's all
Very
nice
good.
and friendly.
And we always paint and if we paint a tree,
always agree.
Everyone needs a friend.
Everyone needs friends, but we don't make any mistakes. Just happy little accidents. That's all we do.
Those are some Bob Ross quotes from Eric. If you don't know who Bob Ross is, you need to watch some of his videos. He's an absolute gem. An absolute gem. He's fantastic. But those are our thoughts on underappreciated games in the video game world. Do get in touch to let us know any game that you feel is underappreciated, even if it's one that is generally liked, but maybe you think it's not liked enough that it needs even more credit.
Not everyone has this tattooed on them.
Yeah, it's like this needs to be the biggest thing ever. Or let us know how you feel about the games we talked about. Maybe you don't like them and tell us why, or maybe you also like them and you'd like to add more that maybe you felt we didn't say that you think are the actual strong points about those games. And if there's we have loads of topics we want to talk about, but if there's a topic in particular that you would like to hear us discuss at some point, feel free to get in touch with us. We would love to hear from people and to get more topics that maybe we wouldn't think of, but that would be interested to cover. So you can get in touch on Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter at The Brothers Take. Or if you're watching on YouTube, you can comment in the comment section. We do check that shit out. And we're excited to hear from people. So until next time, take care. Bye-bye.
Bye bye now.